Okay, this links to the next point. When recruitment activity is working, spend more money on it. So I said at the very start that recruitment is the most expensive thing in your individual giving programs. And so once you have done a test that works, it's so important that you spend more money on it. And this is a big issue in the UK. And the reason for that is that I see so many charities that maybe get a test that works and then they don't invest money in pushing it further. And that's the most frustrating thing in the world as someone who runs an agency, that you've spent all this time and effort, developing an amazing bit of creative, helping them profile their supporters, helping them find the right titles, and it worked. And oh, well, you're not doing anything else with it. Okay, right, okay. Because the point is that it costs money to recruit new people, and you waste money when you don't find people that support you. And so when you do find them, that's where you make your money. That's where you build your supporter base, by pushing more and more money and investment at those tests that have worked. So I can't say it enough. I think it's critically important that when a test works, that you get behind it, you be brave, and you keep investing in it, keep investing in that pack, keep investing in that title or whatever it is, until the results go down so that it's not working anymore. And I would say that the example I talked to you about just now of the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, that is a regrettable example that I can happily share with you, in that the test worked, but they didn't roll it out. And I don't know why. I think it might be because they got cold feet, and that will of course be because maybe they hadn't got their senior management on side. So exactly going back to point one, which was that they hadn't got the commitment of senior people to kind of go, right, when it's working, let's go for it. We'll want more budget. So it's really important to do that. I will give you an example, though, of a charity, though, who have got this right, and which is a really pleasing story. So this is Adam Brooks Hospital in Cambridge in the UK. And Adam Brooks are one of the leading hospitals in the UK for patient care and for global research, basically. And we've worked with them for a number of years. And during the coronavirus crisis, there was a huge outpouring of gratitude and support for the National Health Service in the UK and the doctors and nurses that work for it. People recognising the dangerous and really amazing job that they were doing to help keeping people alive and safe. So we said to the charity, look, you've got to start doing a fundraising and a recruitment campaign now, because you'll never have this window of opportunity again. So we put together a door drop for them, which was sent to regions around the east of England where the charity worked. And so this is, you can see that it's a very simple pack. It's basically the coronavirus crisis shaking the world. Throughout it all, staff at Adam Brooks Hospital have been doing everything they can to save lives. You can support the amazing doctors and nurses now in their work. So it's kind of, they're doing their bit, you can do yours just by supporting them with £25. And we did two versions of this pack. We did a one-off gift version, and we did another version that asked for a monthly regular gift, straight off. And the other nice thing about this pack, I should say, is that this little postcard was sent within it, where people could write a message on the back, a message to the doctors and nurses at the hospital. It might be of thanks, or it might be of support, or it might be whatever. And even that postcard on its own was super successful. Overall, the pack was one of the most successful packs I've ever been involved with. It recruited people at a fairly substantial profit, and in the UK, you don't tend to recruit on a profit. You don't tend to manage that. And as soon as the results started coming in, I was on the phone to the client saying, "You've got to roll it out. Book another one quickly." And they went to their board and asked for some money. They were a little reluctant, but they managed to persuade them to do it. And so 2 or 3 months later, they rolled it out again. It did brilliantly. And so then I said, well, again, it's like a child, again. And so I said to them, yeah, do it again. And they did it again. And then they did it again. And then they did it again. And they're still mailing that pack 3 years later, right? And so they've been brave. It's not working quite as well as it was before. It's getting towards that sort of threshold where it's less useful to mail it, and we're starting to test more things. But they've squeezed every last drop out of that pack. And that's what you need to do with your stuff when it works. Invest in it and do it as much as possible until it sort of stops working, basically. The other thing I would say about this stuff is that, it's about being brave. I would just say it's about being brave and convincing people to go with you on that journey of being brave to roll those things out. Final thing I'm going to talk to you about is about getting the basics right of your supporter development activity. So far, most of the stuff has been about recruiting new supporters, and I think that's important because it's probably one of the hardest things to do. But there are loads of activities open to you when you're doing your supporter development stuff: cash appeals, regular giving, raffles, whatever it might be. There are also several different ways of asking of types of gift you could ask for, like cash gifts, regular gifts, legacies, and it's really important to choose the right ones, the ones that are going to make you the most money. And now this sounds really, really obvious, right? But UK charities, they don't always do this. They know this, just like they know a lot of the stuff I've talked to you about today, but they don't enact it. And I guess I'm saying to you is like, do the simple things well, and you won't go too far wrong. But it's very easy to get distracted, to know what to do, but to actually do it is another thing entirely. So I'm going to tell you about 3 things in terms of getting the basics right, of ways that you can generate long-term income from your supported development activity. One is to focus on monthly regular gifts. And I don't know how much you're doing this at the moment, but it's sort of absolute accepted wisdom in the UK that these are the gifts that are most important to get. And everybody knows this, but not everybody is actually doing it. So they will still be recruiting for one-off gifts. They may not even bother trying to convert donors onto monthly gifts. And you think, well, come on, you know how to do this. Why aren't you doing it? So it's really important to do that. I mean, and there's 2 things in this. Number one is the fact that you've got to ask people, you've got to tell people that this is your preferred way of giving. As a charity, this is the way that we would like you to give to us. It's by a monthly regular gift. Single gifts, great. They're really good as well. We'll take those if you can't do a monthly. But we really want monthly gifts. And the other thing is to obviously try and you can test recruiting people onto monthly gifts directly. So test it against a one-off ask. See if it works. It does sometimes. The second thing you need to do on this is to make sure you've asked every individual that comes into contact with your organisation for a regular gift, and you do it at the right time. So there are two points of this. One is that as soon as anybody has contact with your organisation, whether they've given you their first ever gift, whether it's they've written you an email to inquire about something, whether it's filling in a pledge for campaigning, you've got to ask them for a regular gift within a week, right? Within a week after that. Don't mess about. Set up some automated processes that enable you to do that. And again, by doing that, you seal up all the opportunities that you can to go to these people that actually do care about your cause. And all this stuff will be automated then and bringing in these new regular givers, or at least giving you a chance of doing so. And the idea of doing it quickly after they've made that first transaction with you is really important. The second thing is to run an annual direct debit conversion campaign. Sorry, it's called direct debit in the UK. I mean monthly gifts. And that can go once a year to everybody again. The best people for responding to that are going to be people who are giving you cash gifts and who are giving you a lot of cash. But you can send it out to people who are just inquirers or volunteers or whatever it might be. But just try and get as many people as possible asking to give them regular gifts. And the media that we find best for that is the telephone. Although it's the most expensive way of doing it, it does tend to get in many more people. The second best thing is mailing. We found mailing to be really important. So most of the people that we do direct mailing, Andre, yes, direct mailing. And then the third thing would be emailing. So, and you can kind of prioritize these according to your budget, basically. A lot of charities aren't able to afford using the phone, so they'll do a bit of mailing and email for everybody else. And the other thing to say about that is that while you're doing that annual campaign, you can also send an upgrade campaign to people who already have regular gifts. So you can just adapt the creative for that campaign to the regular gift one, because it's all about the importance of ongoing gifts. Then the other thing I was going to tell you about was legacy appeals, or gifts in wills. So this is possibly the most important thing I'll tell you about today, right? So these are incredibly important, and in the UK, maybe 20 years ago, people were terrified, charities were terrified of talking to people about leaving a gift in their will, because for them it was talking about death, right? And they were just terrified of even talking about the word legacy or gift in will. But as it turned out, that was a huge mistake. And now legacies have become a massive contribution to charities' incomes in the UK. And I mean, there's two reasons. I mean, there's two reasons why you should do legacy fundraising. One is the potential value of the legacy donors. So in the UK, the average legacy gift is worth over £60,000. So one gift will make your campaign worthwhile. The second thing is people also worry about legacy appeals being getting a lot of complaints from them or upsetting their supporters. But we did a survey with our clients a few years ago, and we found that there were fewer complaints to legacy appeals than there were to their cash appeals. And there weren't very many to them either. They almost got no complaints at all. So there is nothing to be afraid of in writing to people about gifts in wills or doing so directly. The other thing to say about them is there are two ways of doing this, and you need to do both. One is this idea of just telling your supporters the fact that you do accept gifts in wills and that they're incredibly valuable for your organisation. And I call this sort of drip feeding the message throughout different communications. So it'd be on your website, it might be on your newsletters, it might be in emails, but just saying to people, that we take gifts in wills, they really make a difference, and obviously give them a call to action to tell them how they go about doing that, how they can get in touch with you about it. So that's really important, and you can just set that up straight away. The other thing that's important to do is to have an annual legacy appeal. Right? An annual appeal where you ask your supporters directly and sensitively to make a gift in their will to your cause. And the aim of this mailing is to inspire people. It's to be able to get people to stand back and go, well, this is not to say this directly to them, but basically think about, well, when they're not around, they want to be able to see their values enacted in the world. They want to leave a lasting legacy to be able to say, well, I've helped the causes that I really care about. Your job in this pack is to show them that it's by leaving a gift in the will to your cause that they can make that happen, and they can feel amazing about that, knowing that their legacy will live on. So it's not about the admin of, how do I go about leaving one? It's about, no, this is inspiring them about your cause. So I'll show you an example of one of the... Oh, before I do, sorry, I've forgotten to say one very important thing, is the value of doing this annual legacy appeal is enormous. So we've done this with many of our clients, and one client tracked the value of doing this. And they found that sending an annual legacy appeal generated 8 times as many legacy pledges per year as just doing that drip feeding thing. 8 times as many. So if you think about the average legacy being £60,000, this is a huge amount of money that people are missing out on by not actually doing these annual legacy appeals. So I'll show you a quick example of one. And you won't be able to see this very well, but I'll just point out what the elements are. So you've got a main covering letter on the left. This is for Sight Savers, by the way, international NGO that helps charities helps people to regain their sight, and a lot of surgery for people's sight in developing countries. On the top right, there's a folder, and there are various items put in that folder. The idea that we've got a folder is the idea that people might not want to make an instant decision about their legacy gift. It's not like a cash appeal where you go, give now. It's something that you might want to put it on your mantelpiece to actually think about it, and you can put the stuff inside it, and it's a place to keep your documents. And so there's a lift letter in there as well from somebody who has already pledged a legacy to the organisation. So that's, again, like peer-to-peer, telling you, well, this is why I've left one, this is why you should leave one. There's an expert, I think probably one of the clinicians out in the field, saying what a difference a gift in their will could make to their work. There's a little leaflet about the facts about legacy giving. So that's where the admin side is. That's all it is there, is it sort of frequently asked questions about leaving a legacy, how you can go about doing it. And then there's a nice little leaflet with a timeline in it showing the organisation's history, to show that it's a credible organisation, it's been around for a long time and it's had impact in the past. And then that timeline can push through to the future to say, well, this is what we're hoping to achieve in the future. And just to kind of focus in a bit more on that, there's also a pledge form. So on the pledge form, we're asking people to basically say either, I'm thinking of leaving a legacy to your organisation, or I've already left one. But it's also useful to be able to have a tick box to say, I don't intend to leave a legacy at this point. because those people are at least replying and showing some sort of interest in what you're doing. And we have found that people who have said, I don't want to leave a legacy at this point, actually do later on, when they're asked in a few years' time, actually do start ticking the boxes going, yeah, no, I'm planning to leave one now. So that's legacy appeals. And then the final thing I'm just going to mention is thanking. And you'll have heard, I mean, this is the standard thing in every fundraising speech at a conference, so I've got to add it in. But I mean, we've talked a lot about how to raise money, how to use communications to get more gifts out of people. But the really important thing is that once someone has made a donation to you, is to thank them in the right way. And the reason this is important, as you will know, is that defines the relationship that you will have with that donor later on. It defines how they will think of you when they've given you their hard-earned money, and how quickly you respond and how personally you respond makes them feel like they can be committed to your organisation, makes them feel grateful, it makes them feel good. So there's two things you need to do. One is to thank them quickly, within 24 hours of receiving their gift. And I've talked to some clients and they've gone, what, 24 hours? I mean, that's really, yeah. I said, but it's, I know you take a week to thank them, but doing 24 hours is possible. You can just automate it, and it really makes people feel better the quicker that you get back to them. And the second thing that you can do is to make it as personal as possible. So if you were going to thank people really personally, you'd probably go around to their house, knock on their door, and say, thank you so much for your gift, it's amazing. Or you would phone them up. And obviously, with the resources that we have as charities, and if you've got a reasonable number of supporters, it's very hard to do that. But your aim is to try and find the next best thing to that. What is the most personal way you can thank people? And I think the way that we often recommend to charities is that they actually do thank them by phone for gifts above a certain level, say 100 euros or something like that, and then everybody else is thanked via email. But that sort of personal, do try and aim for that really personal communication with people, because it really does make a difference, particularly for your high value people, in which legacy donors are, or legacy pledges are very much part of high value, obviously about class as a high value donor. So those are the 5 lessons. So we talked about how to start an individual giving program, some of the things that you need to talk about, some of the things that you need to plan up front. We've talked about how to do a touch point review, how to make the most of the supporters, the people that already care about your cause before you start spending money on recruitment. We've talked about how to raise funds for difficult causes, this idea of finding the audience that does care about your cause and being really passionate and bold in how you communicate with them. And then the 4th one was that, when recruitment is working, when a test has worked, be brave, spend more, invest in it until it's unviable. And then the 5th thing is about how to get the basics right. Choose the methods that are going to generate you the most long-term income. And be brave in selecting those. So I hope that's been of use. And before I finish up, I just want to say that going to our website, changestar.co.uk, we've got loads of free resources. So we've got blogs, we've got videos, we've got podcasts about loads of stuff on direct marketing and fundraising, from how to write a good cash appeal through to how to write an individual giving strategy. It's all there and it's free. And if you sign up to our newsletter list, we do sort of regular Zoom calls with lots of fundraisers just to give advice and have conversations about fundraising. And if you're interested in any of my other writing or podcasts, richarddocwra.com is the place. Thank you very much.